What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? It's Dan here from GrindOR. We are just doing a follow-on from the previous video, which was an SNES collection video. We're now on with the NES, its predecessor, and here we go. This is the beautiful machine itself, commonly nicknamed the toaster or the VCR console. This is a PAL version. So I'll just do a quick overview of the console itself. It was initially released in 1983 in Japan under the title The Famicom, which is short for Family Computer, and then 1986 America got their release, and then in 1987 the UK and the rest of Europe got a release of it as well. And now between it being released in Japan and it being released in America, they redesigned it from the Famicom, what that looks like, to the kind of toaster VCR version which we got. They kind of thought, if we make it look a little bit like a VCR with like a thing there, so you put the game in and then slot it down like you do almost with a VCR, like a top loader VCR or a front loader even, it'll be more acceptable in the living room or stuff like that, so they should sell more units. That in practice resulted in lots of units now that are sort of failing. Basically the way the cartridges load is not particularly good. There is a 72-pin connector in there that when you put the cartridge in, you actually put it in, it kind of connects at an angle, and then when you drop it down, it then kind of it goes flat and flush. Basically what happens is the 72 pins connector starts to bend and flex. So it's a fairly straightforward fix and mod. There's plenty of people on YouTube that have got them, you know, teaching you how to change those over and get replacements, so you can get them fairly easily. There are also mods that just completely remove that, so you just open it up and slot it straight in as well. But I prefer the drop down. I don't know why, I just do. There was also another redesign as well for the top loader, which is arguably the best system of all of them. But you know, the classic VCR one is the classic, the most famous one. Now I'm going to go for something a little controversial here. This console is lauded as the console that saved video gaming, and how Nintendo saved the industry, and in fact created the industry, which I don't really buy into. Everyone, you know, sort of espouses this like as though they were the great saviour, and I really don't see it that way. I still love the console, don't get me wrong. But I just don't see it as kind of the kind of be-all and end-all that a lot of people make it out to be. So it all starts from the game crash of 1983, you know, which is what sort of almost bankrupted Atari, and just where, you know, everything sort of fell apart. And it was notorious for sort of the E.T. Causing it, which is probably a little unfair, and how Nintendo brought us back from the brink in 1986 in the US when they launched the NES, and how they reinvigorated the whole industry, and that's because they had tight controls on quality and stuff like that, which again I don't really buy. LJN, you know, because I mean all the games have this kind of Nintendo. I don't know if it'll be able to focus on that, but it has like the Nintendo seal of quality. Ironically, on Track and Field 2, which is not a particularly quality game, but beside the point. Yeah, I don't really buy the Nintendo sort of. I will acknowledge that they were the ones that sort of broke America and did that, and then, you know, I don't think they made games sort of accessible and saved the market quite in the same way that everyone seems to think they did. Certainly here in the UK, we didn't really have a crash. It's completely a US phenomenon. Japan didn't really have it either. It's purely what happened in the US. Now, while the US is one of the biggest markets, well, the biggest market, it's, you know, it was almost entirely isolated there. We never had anything like that and didn't know anything about it. So as far as we were concerned, it was just a regular evolution. So we had things like the Spectrum and C64 and all that kind of stuff. And then in the same year over here, we then progressed onto the NES and the Master System, and they basically fought it out on an equal footing over here. We had no kind of, you know, biases one way or the other, and the Master System won, and it also won in Australia as well. In Japan, the NES won and outsold the Master System. In the US, it just seems to be that everyone jumped on the NES rather than sort of having more of an equal split. Certainly in the first sort of 5 or 6 months of the release, the NES sold just over 1 million copies, units, shall we say, and the Master System only sold like 125,000 or something. So it did outsell the Master System quite significantly. But I think that was just, it was the most popular one. I think if the NES hadn't have come out, then the Master System, which is very similar indeed, I think the Master System would have just been the one that saved it, and Sega would be lauded as like Nintendo are now. So I just think it's a case of, it was, it was the one that won. But I don't think it's necessarily needs to be lauded in the same way that it is, in the same way that Nintendo is. I might be wrong. That's just my opinion. But anyway, moving on. Another fairly interesting thing for collectors is that the NES is one of the few ones, in fact I think it might be the only one, that has 4 regions rather than just 3. Now ordinarily there's NTSC Japan, which is obviously Japan, NTSC US, which is for the US and Canada, and then there's PAL, which is for England, the UK, Europe, Australia, and I do believe South America comes under PAL as well. Now, the NES actually has 4 regions, and that's because it splits the PAL region up into 2 separate things. You have PAL A, so you can tell, I think that's one of the ones with the biggest ones, but you can tell that the UK ones have got PAL A written on them there. So PAL A was for the UK, Italy and Australia, for some reason, and then PAL B is for France. Now this is where things get really kind of messy. You have to start having a look at codes and stuff. Now normally sort of codes that are on cartridges and stuff don't really mean anything. Generally, as long as it's got, for instance, on the SNES and the N64, if it says UKV, then it's playable in a UK console. If it says Euro EUR, then it's playable in a UK system, and it's all classed as PAL. That's not the case with NES stuff. Like, as I say, you've got the PAL A and you've got the PAL B, but then some of them, so I don't know if it's picking that up, but it says UKV down at the bottom there. Well, it actually says NES-LX-UKV. So if it says UKV, it's a UK-based game. However, this is where some of the confusion comes in. Some of them say FAR. Now, a lot of people kind of automatically assume that means France, therefore France is PAL B, so it won't work. That's not entirely the case. FRA doesn't mean France at all, or it might do. There are a lot of games that came out that are marked FRA, and that's just on the front, but they have a different code on the back. The code on the back says EAI, so which is England, Australia and Italy. Now, presumably Nintendo of Japan weren't aware that Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland are classed as the UK, so they just went England. So if it says EAI on back, then it's fine. So basically, some games such as Metroid only came out with an FRA stamp on the front. You have to flip it over, check on the back. As long as it says EAI, then that's fine. Plus, if you get anything else, I at one point had a copy of one of the Double Dragons that said FRA on it. I was told that FRA means France, it won't work, it's PAL B, so I got rid of it. And I later found out that that's not necessarily the case. As long as it says EAI on the back, then it works. Makes it really complicated, unnecessarily, I suppose. But it's, it's just a good thing for sort of collectors to kind of know and to sort of get into. I have like a fairly reasonable size collection. I have about 42 games. I have more higher quality games for the NES than I do for the SNES. It's the same number of games I had on the SNES, but obviously it looks bigger because it's they are bigger, basically, physically. We have Top Gun, the original Top Gun game, made famous by the film, and also by AVGN playing it and absolutely hating it because it's pretty terrible. I don't think it's an LJ, no, it's not an LJN release, it's Konami. Konami, back in the day, they had some pretty dodgy titles, as we'll see. I also have Top Gun, the second missions as well, which is as far as I'm aware, very, very similar, but just with more missions. Again, you can see the Palais stamp maybe a little bit better on that one. Okay, so we're currently on the filler section at the moment. We have a WrestleMania Challenge. I have no reason to believe that that's going to be a good game. It's made by LJN, so it's probably not going to be very good. But wrestling was stupid big back in the 90s, so, you know, you just stick Hulk Hogan on the front and it's probably going to sell. Kickoff, a terrible football game, I don't doubt. Again, these are bulk up buys. I think this will have been very cheap, like £1 or maybe £2 or something like that. It won't have been very expensive. Terminator 2, which is, I'm not even entirely sure. Again, it's LJN, so it's going to be terrible. Diggity Rock, which is a conversion of I believe it was in the arcades, was initially, where you just, it's supposedly quite a good game. It's been through, you know, hundreds of iterations, you know, on sort of Ataris and stuff like that, but the NES version is supposed to be quite good. Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge. Oh, I have every reason to believe that that's going to be a top-down. I can't imagine it's going to be an on-board racer or a 3D racer, so I have a distinct feeling that's going to be a top-down racing game. A Boy and His Blob. Trouble in Blobalania. Trouble on Blobalania. I have no idea. It crops up all over the place and it's dirt cheap, so I grabbed that. So I'm actually quite looking forward to playing that one because I have no idea what it is, so I'm intrigued by that. Donkey Kong Classic. Now, Donkey Kong, some of the Donkey Kong games get a little bit rarer. This isn't one of them. This one's very, very common. Turbo Racing, again, a very, very cheap common title, not particularly hard to get hold of. The Simpsons, Bart versus the Super Mutants, not Super Mutants. Bart in Fallout 4 world. No, it's Bart versus the Space Mutants, which is it's like a side-scrolling game where you have to solve little puzzles and stuff. I do actually have a bit of a story with that one. A friend of mine had that for his NES. It was the only friend I knew that had an NES. And in the very first mission, you have to go around and spray paint everything that's purple. Apparently, the aliens are using the things that are made of purple to create some sort of weapon or some way of controlling the humans or something. So you have to go around and spray paint or change the colour of everything that's purple. And we were playing it on a black and white TV. High Speed World Pinball. A pinball game. Operation Wolf. Now, I believe that is kind of a light gun game, but you can play it with just a regular controller. Again, it's an arcade port. It's supposedly quite good. I don't know. I know it appeared on all sorts. I believe it was also on the Master System as well. So, you know, how good that is, I don't know. The Adventures of Bayou Billy. Now, I do know that this is terrible. A lot of people say this is Konami's worst game ever. I mean, you know, I have played this one a little bit. It wasn't brilliant, I'll be honest with you, but I don't know if it was quite as terrible as people make out. Well, we're now on to some stuff that's slightly more interesting, potentially. I either don't know anything about it or a little bit more about it, but they seem to, you know, they command slightly higher prices generally. We have Solstice, which to the best of my knowledge is an RPG, which, you know, sort of Space Myth and Magic kind of thing. Robocop, I only have Robocop 1, I don't have Robocop 2, and this is like a side-scrolling shooter. I keep coming across potentially Robocop 3. Now, I know definitely it was launched in the US and stuff, but I keep occasionally seeing it. It doesn't appear on PAL listings, but I do keep seeing it with the UK and UKV on there, on eBay, so I don't know how legit they are. I'm going to have to do some more research into that one. Gremlins 2, the new batch. Again, I don't know if that's any good. Probably not. I would have to do some. I think AVGM played that one as well in his list of not particularly good games. Home Alone 2. So again, this one has cropped up in AVGN. I don't think it's a really crazy one made by Bethesda, but you know, it's another Home Alone game. Wrath of Black Manta. Now, if memory serves me correctly, this is kind of a platformer thing where the dude has, like, his hair is a whip and he, like, sort of whips people with his long hair, which is a bit mental. Shadowgate, again, to the best of my knowledge, this one's another RPG. Again, I'll have to put some time into that. I'm really looking forward to playing some of these really old 8-bit RPGs because some of them are supposed to be really, really good. Gauntlet 2. Again, I don't really know much about that one. It could very well be an RPG. It could be a platformer. Who knows? This is kind of part of the joy of like collecting stuff, particularly with games that you don't know. I'm just gonna, when I get it all hooked up and my game room going, I'll just spend like sort of days and days just chucking them in, going, all right, okay, so what's this one all about? And then getting really immersed in them. The Hunt for Red October. Now, this was an amazing film, really, really good film, with Sean Connery and one of the Baldwins. So I don't think, Sean Connery makes it to the cover. Obviously, I don't think the Baldwin deserved that. So I have no idea what this is gameplay-wise. I'm not entirely sure how you would make a game of the film, but we'll see how they did that. Captain Skyhawk. Now, this looks amazing. It's like a sort of an isometric or maybe a top-downy sort of shooter where you kind of shmup, where you kind of flying a jet. But this really does show off what the NES can do. They do a really good job of kind of faux 3D environments. It looks really, really good. So check that one out. Chip and Dale and the Rescue Rangers. I was properly chuffed when I put this in the first time and tested it. It starts playing an 8-bit version chiptune of the Chip and Dale theme, and it's absolutely wicked. Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Now, I don't know much about this game. It does come up as like it's supposed to be a little bit rare, but it's not very expensive. But it's supposed to be a little bit on the rare side. I don't know how much I believe that. I have a PAL list and it has them all listed sort of what level of rarity they are. And this one is apparently, it's not a rare one, but it's certainly mid-tier, if not a little bit closer. I'm not entirely sure if I buy that because I see it all over the place. Double Dragon 2. Now, obviously, it's a Double Dragon game, so it's a scrolling beat-em-up. But like a bit of an interesting story. I bought this one and Double Dragon 1 at the same time, and I was a little bit new to collecting. And I didn't check, and it said I found that the Double Dragon 1 had FRA on it. So I was like, when I got it back, I went online and sort of found that FRA stands for France, which is PAL B. So I was like, it's probably not going to work. It's not going to do that. I had no way of testing it at the time. So I ended up, chopping it in. I've now later found out that FRA is not necessarily the case that it won't work. So that may very well be perfectly fine, but I'm not going to go buy it back. I am getting a little bit picky with the NES stuff. Unless it was only available in FRA, it has to say the PAL A or UKV. And I'll only get ones that say FRA on the front cover, as long as they were only available as FRAs. So, like I said, Metroid, and there's a couple of others as well. Rescue, the Embassy Mission. Now, this is it's all sorts. This actually looks really, really interesting. It's kind of like a squad-based game where you're trying to rescue some people that are trapped, being held hostage in an embassy. It's got weird little sniper bits and sort of putting your troops around your squad around where you want and breaching. It looks really, really interesting. Like back in the 8-bit days, there was lots and lots of kind of trial with sort of testing new game ideas and all that kind of stuff, because nothing was set in stone back then. It wasn't like it is now, where we know what works, what doesn't work, and what's got mass appeal. So they were just trying all sorts, and this is a really interesting looking game. Kung Fu, the legendary Kung Fu. This is a very, very I will say important title. It's very, very good. Is this one? It's very, very common, but definitely pick that one up. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. It's really, really good. Track and Field 2 as well. I showed you that earlier. I was just using that to sit on the top as an example of a PAL A one. But Track and Field 2 is probably going to suck. We're now on to the more kind of important and impressive titles for the NES. I actually have some fairly rare stuff in here. I also have some other cool things as well. This is the part of the collection I'm happiest with. I mean, although there are some really good stuff in amongst that lot, such as like Captain Skyhawk and a few other things, there are some really good titles in there, Kung Fu as well. But this is the part of the collection that I'm kind of most happiest with. It's Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. This is the original one, which is a side-scrolling platformer with, the notorious sewer scene, which is next to impossible to complete. So yeah, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles 1 and 2. I have the arcade version as well, which is a lot better game. So this is just effectively a brawler, but with the turtles and in 8-bit. So I'm really looking forward to getting that one up and running. Super Mario Brothers 1, like common as muck. absolutely everywhere. Everyone's got it, but it's a very important title, as we all know. No need to go on about why that's important. If you don't know why Super Mario's 1 for the NES is important, then you know you probably won't be watching this video. Apart from Mrs. E, it's a very important game. It's the first Mario ever. Super Mario Brothers 2. So you'd be like, oh, okay, number 2. As some of us know, probably not everyone, this is completely different from all the other Mario games, and the main reason for that is it wasn't a Mario game when it was first designed and created. It was a Japanese game called Doki Doki something or another, and they needed a Mario game, so they did some reskinning on it and created this. I also have the manual for this, which is good. It's a nice little kind of colour manual. Back in the day when you used to get proper manuals that would talk you through the game and give you tips and hints and all that kind of groovy stuff. So yeah, Mario 2, slightly rarer than the other one, which is Super Mario Brothers 3. This and Super Mario Brothers 1 were the first ones that I got actually for the NES. They were very, very common games. I've only ever played them on the Super Mario Brothers All-Stars for the SNES, so quite looking forward to playing the original ones. And again, for that one, I have a manual, a really nice manual. It is a very, very nice manual. Smells musty. It also suffered from the same thing that the SNES suffers from, and the N64, that they came in cardboard cases, and people threw the cardboard cases and the manual away, so picking up cartridges on their own is relatively easy. Not always, but relatively easy. Picking them up boxed and with manual is much harder. Swordmaster. Now this comes up, it's not a particularly expensive game when it comes up. You can generally pick this up for about sort of 15-20 quid usually, but this apparently is really quite a rare game. It's a platformer with like sort of hitting things with swords and stuff. It's not in the best condition. Mine's gone quite yellow on the side. I don't know how well that's picking up, but just on this bottom bit. But yeah, apparently that's a relative. I mean, it looks like a really, really good game, but apparently it's a little bit rare. It's not particularly expensive, but it's supposed to be a bit rare. Maniac Mansion. Now, this is an absolutely amazing game. I'm hugely, or was, and kind of still am, hugely into my point-and-click adventures. My favourite one of all times is Day of the Tentacle. Again, done by LucasArts, or Lucasfilms, I don't know if it's showing you there. Now, this is the original of that game, or sort of the first one in the series. Day of the Tentacle is in fact a sequel, and you go back to the Maniac Mansion. It's got the same characters in it, Bernard, and I don't know if it has Hoagie or anyone else in it, but certainly has the main characters in it. And I have the manual for that one as well, which I was really happy about getting the manual for that one. Definitely, really happy with that. Little known fact, if you play Day of the Tentacle, this is how I've actually played this already. If you play Day of the Tentacle, if you go into, I think it's Ned Edison's room, he's a crazy weird stamp collector guy, he has a computer on the side. If you go and use the computer, it actually has the full game actually on there as well, so you can play it there. Mega Man 2, which is, you know, very, very a good game. This is supposedly the best Mega Man, as far as I'm aware. All it was on the NES. But more importantly, I have it boxed. I have Mega Man boxed, and I also have the manual for that that's in there. I don't know if you can hear that rattling around. So I have a boxed copy of Mega Man 2. I was properly chuffed when this one came up at a half reasonable price. I got this from Gamepad in Scarborough, and it's in really good condition. Well, I mean, it's not really good condition for a sort of 20-odd-year-old cardboard box. It's in exceptional condition. So yeah, Mega Man 2. And just arrived last night, I picked up Mega Man 4 as well. So that came through. That's that's a more expensive one. It's a lot rarer than Mega Man 2. So I just need 1 and 3, and then I've got that entire Mega Man collection for the NES. Next up we have Probotector, which is effectively the UK version of Contra. Just a side-scrolling run-and-gun game, a really, really wicked game. So yeah, that's a fairly reasonably. It's not expensive, but it's a fairly reasonably. It ain't a cheap title. That's quite a good one. Bucky O'Hare. Goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. That one's is quite an expensive title. It's a really, really good game as well. It's a platformer, but you play as all the different characters. You can unlock them all, like Deadeye and Blinky and Berserker Baboon and stuff. Supposed to be an actually legitimately really, really good game. So I'm properly chuffed when I found that and I picked that one up. If you watch back on my collection video number 2. The collecting vlog number 2, when I actually picked this one up, you can see how properly chuffed I was that I got Bucky O'Hare. I'm really happy with that one. If you do watch that video, you'll also know that I picked up Zelda 2 by mistake. I thought I'd picked up Zelda 1, but it turned out it was Zelda 2 because they look remarkably similar. But it's still a very, very good game. So I'm quite happy. A lot of people, don't think it's as good because it's a side scroller rather than the traditional Zelda look. But I'm quite looking forward to playing that one. So to rectify that, I'd picked up Zelda 2 by mistake, thinking it was Zelda 1. I also have Zelda 1 as well, so I now have the complete Zelda selection. Oh, but I also have it boxed. So this, I was so happy when I got this online. Now this is the most I've spent on a NES game out of all of them. Bucky O'Hare is an expensive game. That's an expensive game, much more than most people would be willing to pay for a video game, shall we say. And this, with box, was more expensive, as you can imagine, because this is the original Zelda, and it's box, and it has a manual as well. Come on. The full colour manual as well. So this was not a cheap buy here in the UK. I don't know what it's like in the US, but this was not a cheap buy. But yeah, I'm really happy to have this in the collection. I'm not really that fussed by collecting them all boxed and stuff, as you can tell. Most of them are just cartridge only. But if they come up at the right price and they're boxed, then I kind of grab them. And yeah, I thought it was important. When I saw that this one was boxed, I thought, judging by what it is and the legacy that it had, I thought it was really important. I got that one, boxed. So I'm properly chuffed with that. Right, so that's the entirety of my NES collection. It's a wicked machine. It really is. I'm currently collecting most for this, actually, more than this. The collector at the moment, the collection's really coming on quite quickly. This and the N64 are my two that I'm really collecting for heavily at the moment. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving the NES. It's a wicked system. Go pick one up. Just do it, because you won't regret it. And pick up Mario Brothers and Zelda, and you'll have an amazing time. Right, thanks a lot for watching. Take it easy, guys. I shall see you later. Bye-bye.